Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina, and together we bring ideas for families to inspire them to be healthy, happy, and successful that are both inside
And outside the box. If you like the show, be sure to follow Christina on Facebook.
And please leave us a like, review, and comment on your favorite podcast platform.
Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Craig Addy. Craig is the musician who listens to the listener. His purpose as a creator and performer is to provide nurturing, healing, and beautiful musical experiences that make a better world for all people and the planet. During his healing under the piano sessions and piano performances, Craig asks his listeners, what are you dealing with? What is your experience of life right now? What are your dreams? What are you creating? Their answers are his inspiration for improvised piano music that captures the essence of what is shared at an emotional level. Special emphasis is given to Under the Piano sessions designed for expectant mothers and their partners. These intimate, transformative experiences allow couples to connect deeply with each other and their unborn child through the power of customized, soothing soundscapes, fostering a serene environment that supports emotional bonding and prenatal well-being. That is a beautiful intro. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for being here.
I am delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Whenever a co-colleague, someone who knows both of us, introduced me to this idea of you coming on our show and talking about this beautiful thing of you and piano music and nurturing families, I was just so excited. And then after I got to meet you in the pre-chat, I was like, wow, I think this is going to be one of our best podcasts because it just goes so much to the heart of family and to the heart of nurturing the well-being of all in a different way through music. So thank you for being here. And give us just a little bit more of your inspiration. Why piano? Or yeah, under the piano. Sorry.
Do you want the story of how I got to be doing this?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's three pieces to this story that happened throughout my life. So the first piece was that when my mother was pregnant with me, she played the piano a lot. And she particularly loved playing Schubert and Chopin. And there's this one particular Schubert sonata that she played over and over when she was pregnant with me. And she claims to this day that's partly why I have this affinity for music. And even though I've not learned that sonata, it is my favorite Schubert sonata. So one day I'm going to learn it. And then I was born. And when I was about 8 or 9, I'm not quite sure what year, my mom bought a grand piano. And I would crawl under the grand piano when she was playing the piano. And it was kind of like, when we were kids, we'd make forts. Like you'd turn furniture on its sides and you drape blankets over, you take little lamps and you make this little hideaway, this cozy escape. Being under the piano was a little bit like that for me. Only instead of a blanket, it was like this bubble of sound, like you're encased in this bubble of sound and you're surrounded by the sound. And it was just like this really cool thing to do. So my mom would be playing Chopin and Schubert, and I would just hang out there from time to time. So when I got a little older, I stopped doing it. There wasn't like a conscious decision. It just, you get older and you get interested in other things. So the second part of the story is I got into high school, and I was really excited to be in high school because, everything's bigger. There's all these new people. You get dedicated music lessons. You get dedicated art lessons. You get all these things that you didn't have in elementary school. And I was so excited about it, but it didn't end up being an exciting time for me. Bullying arrived on the scene. It kind of caught me by surprise. And I tried a few things to deal with it, and that didn't work. So it got to the point where when I was going to school each morning, I just had this pit in my stomach, of anxiety and fear. And I think the worst thing about bullying, in my case, it was never physical bullying. It was the fear of physical bullying, but it was the humiliation and the embarrassment. And, I just didn't want anyone to know. So I didn't tell my family. It's not because I didn't have a loving family. And, it was just, I just didn't want people to know. So at this time, my piano teacher gave me a Chopin nocturne to learn. And I guess you could say that was the first serious adult piece of classical music that she ever gave me. And I found everything I needed to express what I was going through in that piece of music. It's dramatic, a little dramatic to say it. It almost saved me because I could express all that I was having to deal with. It had the sadness and the passion, and then it had this very peaceful, almost religious middle section. It provided something really important for me. And I played that at the end of the year at my piano teacher's recital. Like, she had a lot of students. It was a big deal. And I played that, and people came up to me after and said that they were so moved. And that's when I realized that music wasn't healing just for me, it was healing for other people. So that's when my future as a musician was sealed, that experience in high school and learning that Chopin nocturne. So I went off and I did my music degree at UBC, University of British Columbia. And I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with my music after that. So I started up a home business with my mom and my dad. They were both teachers. My dad retired early. My mom wrote beautiful educational books. I designed these children's alphabets, which we hand silk screened. Like, we were just doing this whole world of school educational materials. And my dad did the marketing, and I did all the creative stuff. I was doing music on the side. It was a good time. Then my dad really did retire, and I took over the whole business. So I'd be in my 40s, and it shoved music out of my life. So I didn't see it consciously, but it just pushed all that creative stuff out of my life, and I became really miserable. So I went back to music. I started up a duo with a clarinetist, Howard Meadows, and we do weddings and events and things like that. And one day, Howard came into the rehearsal room, and I was improvising at the piano. Now, something I didn't tell you, I'd always done this, but I'd always done it for myself. I didn't improvise for people. It was just something I did for myself. It was like meditation and being creative and all that. And he said, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, it's just something I'm making up in the moment." And like, he was, "What? That sounds like a composed piece." So the cat was out of the bag, and he said, "Okay, next gig we have, you throw some of those in. It's just background music. So, what have you got to lose?" So I started doing more and more of that. And then Howard, who has an incredible ear and can compose as well, he could play along. So we started doing this duo of improvising. Eventually it got to the point where we were doing entire concerts that were improvised. And we did this thing called Music Oasis, where we'd go into this church with this beautiful acoustic, and we would just play for 75 minutes without knowing what was going to happen. And people would come in and they would just sit. There was no clapping, there was no applause. It was just like this meditational space. And the final piece that happened here was that I was reading a book called The Piano on the Left Bank, a delightful little book. And this fellow who had a piano shop, he would tell the stories about the pianos, but the stories were really about the people who owned the pianos. But I turned the page to this one chapter, and it said the title was Fazioli. I went, "What's that?" And a Fazioli is this new Italian piano. It's the new big kid on the block. And after I read about the Fazioli, I said, "Oh, I want to play one of those so badly. But they're rare. I would have to go to Europe to try one." So Howard was walking down the street one day, and he looked in this window, this new store opening up. You know how you have to look through the glass to see what's in there. And on the back wall was a huge Fazioli sign. So there was a store that was selling Faziolis opening. So I went into this store the moment it opened, and they had, 4 or 5 of these Faziolis, including a 9-foot concert grand. And you know how when you imagine something's going to be amazing in your imagination, and then you experience it, and it's not at all like that, but it's better. That's what Faziolis were like. So I'm in the store and I'm playing this piano, and there's only one other pianist in there. I don't know him at all, right? And I still don't know why this happened. I was at the other side of the store. I looked across. This guy was playing the 9-foot Fazioli, and I remembered being a kid lying under my mom's grand piano. And sometimes I get playful. So I walk over to this guy, and he says, "Just keep playing. I'm going to crawl under the piano." And he did. Piano. Yes. And I crawled under this 9-foot concert grand and I lay full length under it. And I'm remembering my childhood. I'm remembering those times when my mom was playing. And my whole body was resonating with the music. Like it felt so great. It was like getting a massage with sound. So I go home and it's stuck in my head, it's bumping around in my brain. Finally, I think it was about 3 weeks, I had 3 friends over to my place to see what they thought of this. I liked it. What do other people think of it? And they each took turns getting under the grand piano, which was the very same grand piano my mom played. She gave it to me. This is not the same piano now, and when I was done, they were sitting there. This is not at all like listening to a piano from across the room. This is amazing. And one of them said, Craig, you should make it a business and you should call it Under the Piano. And so that's how this all started, this combination of healing through music, improvising, and this childhood experience all came together when I was in my late 40s to create Under the Piano. It's a bit of a long story, but that's how we got there.
I absolutely love it. And that story is, just amazing because you're bringing together all those things that we really, really want. We want to feel those emotions. We want to have that sound wash over us. I love when you were talking about, the fork kind of thing, because what do our kids want lots of times, that playful fork kind of thing. And all of this wrapped together just totally makes it understandable why Under the Piano is around.
Yeah, it brought up so many different memories and stories and thoughts of things that have happened through my life just while you were telling that story. So there was this one song, it was like a 10-minute techno piece that had all of that. Like you said, it spoke to me and it brought different emotions up. And I used to listen to that while I was snowboarding. I had it in my rotation. Whenever that song came on, it changed the way I would snowboard. And then I hurt myself snowboarding and I had to put that away. And so I haven't listened to that song in quite a while, but it was in the headphones and it resonated and out in the snow and moving. And also, in my woo world, in my healing world, they have like sound beds where you lay on the bed and it plays tones through your bodies and the solfeggio frequencies and so all of what you're talking about just resonates. Which happens underneath the piano. And there's just so many aspects of it that just come together beautifully in your story. So thank you very much for sharing that. I love how you got there. And I can completely understand that sound bath idea and theory.
Yeah.
So how did you end up then starting the business? So she says, "Oh, you should start Under the Piano." How did that actually then come into being?
Yeah, so first I tested it out for a while. So I phoned up friends. Would you come and have this experience? I want to see how you respond to it. So I wanted to make sure that it was a uniformly or more or less uniformly good experience for people. So I can't remember how long I did that, probably like 4 or 5 months. And it became very clear that it was something that people responded to in a very positive way. Everything's a spectrum. Some people would be like profoundly impacted by it. And some people said, that was great. It would be anywhere between those two. So I just, then I started networking and I started talking to people and, some people thought I was crazy. I didn't know that at first, but I found out after. But through the networking, people would come and then I get these amazing testimonials at the group. So I kind of broke through the this is too weird for me barriers with a lot of people. And so it just grew. I mean, I've done close to 1,000 people now. Usually the sessions are for couples. I do couples more than I do individuals. And then, of course, I discovered things as I went, which is kind of why I'm here, because inevitably the day came when a pregnant mother came. I had no idea what to expect. And she was in her 3rd term, so the baby had hearing. I always recommend that people come in the third term. There's still benefits before, but when you come in your third term, the baby gets to enjoy the concert as well. And I play a little differently when it's a pregnant mother. I don't play too loudly. And I tend to stick to more gentle and positive music. I always put some sad music in because life, includes that. But the flavor is a little different when then. But anyhow, when that happened the first time in the month, oh, the baby was dancing around to the music, and like it was totally like an experience that they were all enjoying together, and I just loved that about that. So I don't know how many pregnant couples I've done this for now, but it's been quite a few. And the thing that but the thing that really interested me is that some of them reached out to me after, because I always record the session and most people like to get the recording. So these mothers were continuing to play the music during the rest of their pregnancy. But the part that really interested me is some of them reached out to me, months or even like a year after and saying, whenever my baby's upset, I put on this music and she or he just calms right down. So it's got a lasting impact for babies and their mothers that's really, really beneficial.
I love it. And I was wondering if you had done any research on your own about, the connection between music and moms and kids. And, we all know, just anecdotal experience that there's certain music that calms, or there's certain music that, but is there anything that you've done any research on?
Yes, and I'm not going to quote these studies perfectly, but I have started researching it, and I found one meta-analysis of using music before labor and during labor and after, and I think they looked at like 200 studies, and they picked the 15 top ones that met their parameters, and uniformly across the board, the introduction of music into the pregnancy had huge benefits for reducing anxiety, and during pregnancy, during labor, reducing pain, which is beneficial to the baby as well. So, yeah, I mean, I always knew this instinctively, anecdotally, as you said, but yeah, the studies are out there that it's, a really good idea. So I think, what I envision, if at all possible, is that if a mother comes for a session with me and she gets her music and she plays it for the baby, then when she's actually giving birth, they play that music in the hospital or however they're having their birth done.
And I imagine that as well, because that just makes sense. I mean, it relates even back to your story that your mom was a piano player when you were in womb, right? And then you were liking music and enjoying music and being able to connect to music and everything. And then, we just know that those studies of calmness and their serenity that could happen.
Yeah, a couple of things that came to mind is pregnant women who listen to classical music and have their children listen to it. Their children typically are better at math. That's just kind of this weird anecdotal thing.
Well,
another thing is the dolphin
one.
When dolphins get around pregnant women, especially in late term, they're very fascinated and they sound into the womb, into the stomach, and there are dolphin childbirth, and the sounds that the dolphin makes that childbirthing easier.
Wow.
So, just all of what you're saying just hits at so many different levels and so many different across different platforms. It's really wonderful that you found this.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say that, I mean, like I grew up with a love for classical music and more relaxing forms of, even new age music and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter what kind of music it is. I mean, I didn't want to admit to myself that, I still wonder about heavy metal, but they have shown, like whatever the baby is exposed to, that can have those beneficial effects. However, they did say in that one study that if music hasn't been pre-chosen by the mother, they haven't figured out what she likes, the music that I play classical piano music, is the best choice. So I think I still have a slight advantage.
Yes, you have a slight advantage. And actually, we were talking before we popped on here, though, classical is not my favorite, but I love piano music. Have you ever heard of the composer Gary Lamb?
I have not.
Okay.
But there's so many of them out there.
Yeah, there are, but this one it just popped into my head because I loved playing it when I was in my classroom, because he
Yeah.
composes on the same beat as the heartbeat. I think it's like
Yes.
60.
Yeah. Yes, that's something that I want to go back and listen to some of my music and see what I mean, I haven't actually ever stopped to measure what the beat is, but I'd be curious to find out. Could be something that I get a little more conscious about during my sessions if it's not in that range.
But what it was whenever I played it in my classroom, it was amazing the calm that would come over the kids. Because
Yeah.
I could play different kinds of music whenever, right? But
Yes.
especially writing time, I would ask the kids, what kind of music do you want today during writing time? Because writing tends to be harder for second graders, and that's who I dealt with the most. And it was amazing. They would say, oh yeah, that one that just makes me melt and be able to write. So encouragement for parents, we have this wonderful guest
Yes.
here who is helping us with music and things, but also try out different kinds of music when you're in
Yeah.
your home study situation or when your child's doing homework
Yeah.
or whatever, and see what helps them kind of melt and focus into what they're doing.
Yeah. I think one of the things that people don't realize is that we, on a subconscious level, we entrain to music. So whatever the rhythm is, that becomes our rhythm, and there's an amazing man, Julian Treasure. He's done a few TED Talks. His early ones are all about sound and its beneficial and negative impacts on us. And they did a study in a grocery store, and they measured it by the sales. So for a period of time, they played upbeat, fast music and measured the sales. And then for a period of time, they played slower music and measured the sales. And then for a period of time, they played no music. And the sales for the slow music were significantly higher.
Really?
Because people match the rhythm of the music. So they slow down and they take time to look what's on the shelf.
That does make more sense, man. Because I was almost thinking it would be the opposite, right? The fast music. Oh yeah, grab this, grab this,
No.
grab this, grab this. Mm-hmm.
Often, and so people don't think about this when they have stores. Whoever's working that day chooses the music they like, and often it's upbeat, enlivening music because they want to keep their energy up, but they're actually in many cases driving sales away.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of restaurants did the same study, and they actually played the quicker music so that people eat
Yes, so that
faster
people
and
would
get
leave
out of the
faster.
table
Yes.
so that they can have more turnover because you're
Yes,
already
and
in there to eat. So
yeah,
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 that's really funny that you said that because restaurants play more upbeat just to get turnover quicker.
yeah. And when it's slow, they can put slower music on. The smart ones do that because then they want people to hang out longer and order more.
Drink more, right?
Drink more, put more tips on the table, etc. Yeah. I was curious when in your bio it talks that you asked, several questions of the people who you do music for. Kind of how did you get to those questions, or did it just kind of happen to flow?
It's very organic. So I'm not a therapist or a counselor or anything. So I don't do anything with what people share with me. I use it as a source of inspiration for the music, and that's all.
Yeah.
So I let people decide what they want to share. Also I'll usually just break the ice saying, oh, where are you from? Where did you grow up? What do you do? The standard stuff. And I'm pretty good at making people feel quite relaxed and at ease. And so most people start sharing things about their life, that are more impactful or more important to them. So, I mean, the more people share with me, the more I have to work with.
Mm-hmm.
The richer the experience. But I mean, I can work with very little too. So it's all very intuitive.
That is
But
awesome.
I don't have a set of questions.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Excellent. Well, as we're talking about, the music and things like that, is there anything else that you really wanted to share with parents or share with families about what you do, or why this is impactful? I mean, we covered
Not really.
a
I
lot.
think one thing I will say that providing a rich environment for your children to the best of your ability, is so important. I still think part of why this happened for me is that my mom actually ran a kindergarten in the basement of our house when I was a child. So, and she only had the morning sessions, and so the place was free all afternoon. So I had this playground to go into when I was a child before I was going to school. You know, I had everything. I had like 4 painting easels. I had giant tubs of Play-Doh. I had Tinker Toys. I had Lego. I had a library of books. I had a symphony of instruments, xylophones, you name it, 2 pianos. Like I had this incredible environment to play in. And I think that has something to do with how I ended up this way. And, I mean, I didn't appreciate it then. I mean, obviously, not everybody's going to set up a kindergarten in their house. But, creating opportunities for that kind of exploration and play to the best of what you can manage, I think is such an important thing.
And I want to echo that absolutely. And like you said, you don't have to set up a full kindergarten or a full exploration station in your house, but take your children for experiences. Go visit the
Yeah.
museums, go visit the
Yeah.
parks, the zoos, the historical things that are in your area. And as they grow, of course, their interests will change. And then you get to grow and develop and learn with them as well. So absolutely take your children on lots of different experiences and find these unique experiences, like having you play for them. That is just amazing. I love this.
Because part of what we do outside of the podcast is we do help parents start to homeschool their children. And
Right.
one of the
Yes.
things we talk about is the trauma induced in going to school and the getting the picked on and the getting the bullied,
Yes.
and how being at home around supportive people, and then when you would go to the music class, you would still go to your music class and you could still get that, but the hallways around the school system are just brutal to kids because you have so many people out there who aren't trained in how to get along with each other, interacting. So, part of what we do is we do help people start educating from home. And but again, we do talk about getting them out to the music classes, getting them out to their sporting events, so it's not just all at home. And so that's part of what we do. So
That's great.
Have you ever taught children how to play piano? Have you ever done lessons?
I have taught. I do a little bit of teaching. I actually like teaching. It's in our family's blood, but I don't do a lot because I like to perform more and compose. But I've taught some teenagers, and most of my students have been adults.
Have any of them got into the improvisation?
I always encourage and promote improvising as part of my teaching practice. Somehow it just fell out of, especially in the classical realm, it just fell out of, I mean, if you go back not too far, I mean, all the classical musicians improvised. And then I don't know why it disappeared. Well, I have some ideas, but we don't need to talk about that.
We don't need to go there, but that's okay. Well, for those of you who are just listening, you can't see the beautiful piano that Craig is sitting beside. And it has been a beautiful background looking at the piano and listening to him talk and everything like that. And I think we said on our pre-podcast chat that you might actually play a little bit for us. And I think that would be great for the audience.
So I'll absolutely do that. Now, do you want to create something for yourself, like an intention or something like that for me to use for this music?
Would love to have something around building our school and helping parents understand and get to the where they understand that they can be the teachers and they can be helpful and they can do this
nurturing of their children.
Because so many parents think that they don't have time and that they're just not ready for it. And so they send their kids off to school because they think that's what's best. And so, helping get that kind of through that they are capable, they are the best teachers.
So music is the language of emotion. So in that, what you just shared with me, what are some emotions or moods or even ways of being that you would pick out in that? Does that make sense?
It does. One of the things that we talk about right now is being the empowered parent and feeling capable and confident of taking charge of your child's education. So I think that's part of it.
Probably the precursor would be the fear around stepping outside of the norm of people.
Or not doing something right for your children, that fear of, oh no, am I going to mess it up? Yeah. And then hopefully the beauty and the grace and the love that comes from the relationships that are built because the kids are there with you and the family.
Because we do talk about it as helping parents take their kids out of school, but it's so much more of building and bringing a coherent family together. So the love of the family, the being able to have the traditional values within the family and to be able to pass on the family heritage and legacy, like you did, like being able to work with your parents and then growing from that into your own business and your own people.
Yeah.
Because right now it's like kids go away to school and then they're just gone and the families separate and don't come back together so much. So we're trying to bring back the family.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay, so fear, empowerment, and then this beautiful connected kind of family love community sort of thing. Okay. All right, let's see what happens. So I'm going to remember this.
I got to push the button.
And I'm going to go on mute on our end just so we don't get
Yes, that's perfect. Yeah.
my goodness. Thank you so very, very much.
That was really beautiful. So thank you. So would you be able to play that again the same way, or is it just through, it's an experience and then on to the next one?
I could play something very much like it for the next hour or so, but if too much time passes, it'll disappear into the ether.
Oh, wow. Absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful.
Really
Craig.
would have liked to have been under the piano for that, to have that,
Yeah.
because the speakers that we have, well, they're good, but they're not that.
Yes.
And that would
Yeah.
have just been an amazing experience. So thank you very much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Thank
And
you.
by the way, I have recorded this. I have recorded this into my professional recording software, so I can send you. Zoom doesn't give you the best audio recording, so
Oh, thank
I
you.
can
That would
send
be
you that.
fabulous. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Use it as a soundtrack for our
For some
stuff.
of our stuff, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, for sure.
could we have permission to get part of it and put it at the intro of our podcast? Would that be okay?
Yeah, it's if you credit me, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see what,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that just popped into my head because we don't have any intro music right now. So that might be really
Right. Yeah.
or some
Yeah.
outro music or something. Craig, would you please make sure you say out loud how our audience can get a hold of you? And of course, everything will be in the show notes and we'll be, putting you out on
Yes.
YouTube and everything else, but get of our audience how to get a hold of you.
Yeah. So the best way to get hold of me is at craigaddy.com. So CRAIGADDY.com. And I should note that I have a newly released album called Lullabies Under the Piano, which is some music from an actual session for a pregnant couple. And I think I said I would give you a code so people can get that at no charge. So I will send that to you, and your listeners can use that code. So I don't know where you can put that, but I'll
It'll
send
be
that
down
your
in the
way.
show notes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll be able to go
Yeah.
right down there and find it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow.
And then if you want to explore Under the Piano a little bit more, I actually have a dedicated site for it as well called underthepiano.ca, not .com. So
Exactly.
that's how you can reach me.
Yeah. And actually, people are like, oh, well, can we do this virtually? And like you just did for us.
Yes.
You said
Thank
you
you for
can do it
reminding me.
virtually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because there's two pieces to what's beautiful about an Under the Piano experience. The first piece is the in-person, physical, immersive experience, which is very powerful. But the other piece, which is equally important, is the storytelling, like recreating your stories and your dreams and desires in music. And that works online. So I have started doing online sessions. I've done sessions for people in New York and down through the Western states. So it's, opened up a global reach if you can't come to Vancouver.
Exactly. And see, we're here in Oregon, you're up there, and we're still connecting and making this beautiful thing happen. Oh,
Yeah.
this has been such an inspiration. And thank you so much for the beautiful music, but also, just like I said, the inspiration. Family get inspired about music. And like you said, it doesn't have to be the classical music, any
Nope.
kind of music.
Yeah.
But get your children involved, at least expose them to different kinds of music. And, if you know someone who is, pregnant and expecting, get them to Craig for one of those under the piano pregnancy sessions. I think that'd be really impactful. But like you said, you can even share your current stories so your children have music to grow up to. So thank you so much for being with us today. And audience, I hope you enjoyed this inspiring session.
And Craig, I would like
so
to thank
much.
you for putting yourself out there. There's so many people who talk about problems and see issues, but aren't brave enough to step forward. And so the way you've moved forward and the way you put yourself out there, and even though you thought this was crazy, you still move forward, just as an inspiration. And so thank you for making the world a better place. So for the thousands of families that you've already helped, it's probably been such a blessing. And so you're making the world a better place. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being here. And before we do go, is there anything that we haven't covered today that you would like to talk about? Is there any little snippet or any little golden nugget that you would like to drop before we go?
I don't think so. I'll probably think of it after.
That happens thought sometimes, and that's quite all right, because it's kind of one of these last minute zinger questions we give out sometimes. But audience, make sure you take these gold nuggets, because we have talked about so many important things about music, about children, about family life, about the continuity of growth of all of us. So please take these gold nuggets from this show, take it, put it in your pocket, but then take it back out and use it again. Make sure you don't just take the information and keep it, share it and grow with it, and keep your family happy, healthy, and successful. Until next time, we'll see you then. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christine.